always an exciting day for me when I get to have you here with me. Thank
I'm always with you.
Well, yeah, but I mean, working with it. It's true, you always are with me. Daniel calls you my little koala, my little Klingon.
It's true.
So always fun for me. Chloe homeschools, so we are together all the time.
Yep.
But I love having you here. So we were talking, and I love something you said, and I wanted to have you share it.
Yeah.
You were talking about focus and energy, and we talk a lot in our house about where your focus goes.
Your energy flows. So we were kind of talking about the idea that we are, as people, are shaped usually by what other people say. Over time, throughout your life, people will tell you things, or whether it's good things, advice, or bad criticism, that it kind of can shape how you become or what you do. And so I was just thinking, if you're really focused on what you want and you know exactly what you want, it makes it a lot easier to go, no, I know what I want. That's not true, right? So
I love that, because what you're also saying, besides focus and knowing what you want, you're talking about creating your life through values with intention.
Right.
So you're talking about actually knowing what your values are, being intentional about it, and staying focused on it.
Right.
Well, I don't know why you're so intuitive about that and intentional about that at your age, but it's really important for teenagers.
Yeah.
Really important.
It's really important. And it's not like an easy thing for me either. It's because when I'm one of those people that I love friendly criticism, if somebody's not giving me friendly criticism about something that I do, I ask them for it, because I always believe that you can be better. You know, you can always...
I like that, friendly criticism.
Friendly criticism. And that you can always improve at whatever you're doing. But at the same time, that makes me more vulnerable to negative criticism affecting me as well.
Right.
So when I get negative criticism, I'm like, is that true? And sometimes I'm like, no, I know that's not true. But then other times I'm like, you ever have that question where you're like, oh, maybe you start to doubt if it's true or not. And usually what I've kind of figured out is I start to doubt myself when I'm not focused and when I'm not sure that that's what I want. So if I really focus in on what I want and I actually picture it and visualize it in vivid detail, it's hard to say maybe that is true. It's hard if you've got that image in your mind, it's easy to go, no, I know that that's not true.
Well, and we don't always do a great job of teaching teenagers this, I think, because it takes us as adults so long to figure it out for ourselves. But I can't think of a group of people, individuals, who could use it more than teenagers, especially in a world like today. I mean, we see our kids struggling so much today, and they're so vulnerable to bullying and criticism. And I mean, just at the school that you went to for up until just recently, one of their star athletes, an AP student, committed suicide. Yeah. And because he was when you read the letters he left, he was completely just influenced by everyone else's criticism and pressure. Peer pressure and pressure by parents and teachers. And now that was his perception, but obviously he wasn't in touch with what was important to him.
Right.
Or just what's going on with the tragedy with school shootings. And yes, there's mental health issues, no question. But it would certainly be helpful if all of our kids were really focused on what was important for sure. And as parents, I know for me, I'm so busy, it's hard enough for me to do it.
Right.
So it's a practice. It has to be a daily practice. I know for me as a parent, I've got my daily practice that I do. It's got to be, I exercise, I pray, I meditate. I have my practice. What do you do? What are just a couple things if you could give anybody a tip?
Daily things?
Yeah, what are some things you do? Like journaling or...
Journaling, yeah. Journaling is definitely one of them. I love journaling because putting things in writing takes what you've already have in your head and sort of puts a stamp of approval on it. And it's now that's in writing. Now
it creates
that's
a little
true.
clarity too, I think.
Yeah, it definitely creates clarity. So journaling is definitely one of them. Like I said, when I'm in doubt about something, about myself, I picture it exactly what I want. I focus in on exactly what I want and I picture it happening, because that way it's hard for me to go, what that person said is true. If I have another picture completely in my head and I replay.
So you're creating your own picture.
And I keep replaying it over and over and over again, especially when I start to doubt myself. Not just when I'm confident, but when I also am
So now I know one thing you've done, you're so good about this too, is you you still have your friends that you had when you went to school, but you've also created like this whole group, like a support system. It's not a support system, but like it really is in a way, through like your life group. And by having friends that give you a ton, like that share that same, those values, that's helpful.
And going back and forth between each other and our own values, it really helps like to put yours in, solid. It's,
So I think that's an important point. Community matters, right?
Yeah.
And so one thing I wanted to talk about, so you talk about focus, and I know you've danced, I do martial arts, and in both of those sports, you learn something about balance, right? You lose your balance if you don't keep your eye, if you're doing spins or turns or whatever, and you actually get knocked over in martial arts a lot. If you are not focused on what it is you are about to do, and in ballet or in dance, if you're spinning and you don't have your focus clear on one spot, you get dizzy. Right? So you lose your perspective. And so that's really an important point, but that can be applied to life. And I know you're going into the arts. And so as a parent, of course, we're always preparing her because it can be a crazy world. That world especially is notorious for being sort of dangerous and influential, and kids get lost because they're so afraid to lose. People make these threats about how they can ruin your career if you don't do something they want, or I'll give you this if you do that. And here's the truth. We have always told her, never lose your soul for a job. Make no mistake about it. It's a job. Don't ever lose your soul for something that is, that is temporary. Keep your eye on the eternal goal. So we want you to focus on that and just don't ever lose sight of that. There's nothing worth selling your soul for. So we've always planted that in your head. But what I want to really point out is that everyone knows that when you're looking at Hollywood. They don't think about that with high school. And high school is crazy.
It's kind of just as intimidating. Yeah, it is.
Peer pressure is insane.
It is, for sure. And I don't know, I just kind of tell myself how I determine if things are, right or wrong in my mind, or when I'm making a decision that could change, the way things go for me. I think, does this fit in with the picture that I have in my mind? If I make this decision, is it going to take me down a completely different path than what I want? Because if I know exactly what I want, it's like, well, will that one thing make that even better, or will it negatively impact it, or will it not really do much for me at all? And that's how I kind of like narrow things down, because it can be really hard. It's easy to say, especially going into this industry, well, if I don't agree with something, or if that doesn't fit with what I want, that I'm just going to shut it down. But then it's like sometimes you get really big opportunities, and it's hard to just go, maybe I should just shut that down. But
and sometimes it happens insidiously. It happens slowly. You don't even see it happening.
Very slow. And then it's like, oh, now you have to make a decision now. And so you have to just think, does that fit with my,
So I love that. So what we tell people to think about, and what you're saying in essence is very similar. We tell people to think, then what? If I do this, then what?
Right.
That's really what it is.
Exactly.
So what would you say to some kid at school who was being bullied, or who felt like there was so much pressure that they feel like there's no hope? Is there anything or is there something that you even know to say? I mean, that's a hard one.
That's a really hard one. Well, I think something that, for me, it's going back to this focus thing. It's before you can tell other people no, before you can say no, you have to be able to say, you have to have your yes before you can say no to somebody else. So you have you have to have your, I just came up with it. You have to have your, I know this is right, I know this is what I want, so that you can go, that's not what I want.
So you can't just say no, you have to know what you want before you can say what you don't want.
Right, because it can be really hard if you don't know where you're at and you're feeling kind of lost, and somebody else is going, you're lost, I'm gonna pick on you. It's hard to go, no, I'm not, and be confident about it if you don't know, like if you really don't know. But if you first find your whatever it is, and it doesn't have to be something specific like a job, not, if you're in high school, sometimes you don't know exactly what, but it has to be something sort of that shapes your life. It's like, what is my focus? It could be good grades, it could be getting into a certain college, and just be as specific as you can, And that way you can have more power and confidence behind that no.
So we created a vision board for you over the summer, and I really like it. And you actually focused on all 4 circles we talk about at Amen Clinic. Biological, which is your health.
Yeah.
You focused on psychological, which is your mental health and being very confident. And you focused on social, which is your friend group. And then you focused on spiritual, which is being connected to what's bigger than you are and that eternal value. Right. And it's really important to have that. And I asked you a really unfair question about, you know, kids that feel bullied because parents don't even know how to handle this very well. Adults aren't handling it well.
Right.
So to ask a bunch of kids to handle it well when we don't handle it all that well at this point, you know, it's hard. It really starts with great parenting early on.
Right.
It starts with intervention there. And I can't say we've done an amazing job.
It's establishing that foundation from the very beginning of like knowing who you are and teaching kids how to know who they are and creating that foundation. It's not a thing that just comes. You can't just stand up. It's not that easy to just stand up to somebody and go, no, you're wrong. If that's not
Although
what
you were always kind of that kid who did that.
Kind of, but I also pretty much from the time I was little, I was working on I always had my like focus and my goals. I've always been really focused.
Yes, I know. You were not an easy child with that. Well. But you're an amazing teenager. It's really challenging.
Sorry, not sorry, Mom.
Yeah, I know. It's really hard to have a little kid who's like, you know, going to take over the world, but it's really awesome having a teenager like that. So I just wanted to put this out there because I think it's just a hard world for teens right now.
It's really hard.
And I think, you know, grace goes a long way too. You know, when things aren't, when you're not doing things the way you think you should, or you make mistakes and you take your focus away and you make a mistake and you do something that you're not proud of, having a little bit of grace with yourself and going, you know what, I can forgive myself and get back on track is okay.
Yeah. Right. It's like we all have our moments. Like I said, I have my moments where I doubt and I'm like, uh-oh, like I don't know, maybe I don't know what to say, or maybe that is true, and I like start to doubt. But then it's always okay to go refocus and find your ground again and find that like power behind the no. Find that power to go like, no, that's not true, and refocus. And instead of getting angry at other people, I found what really helps, because if you get angry about somebody criticizing you, it's just going to make you angry. It's not going to stop them. There's always going to be someone or something that goes against what you wouldn't have your focus if there wasn't something that went against it. You wouldn't be able to achieve it if there wasn't something that got in the way.
And it wouldn't be worthwhile.
Right. So instead of getting angry at it and trying to change that one thing, which you're probably not going to be able to do, focus on what you can do to change your focus. So that's what I've kind of figured out.
I love that. So we see this a lot with our celebrity kids that come in here and especially the ones, you know, that are involved in Hollywood stuff. And it's really tragic to see them sort of hit that bottom when they get off track because they're kids and they don't really know what's going on, and their lives are sort of being directed by people who have a different view or a different focus in mind for their lives and maybe what would be best for them.
They have a different focus.
And so but then to watch the ones who succeed and really like hone in on their values and what's important to them, and then you watch them emerge
so
powerful.
They just keep going. Yeah,
it's so cool to see, and it's just an amazing process. So yeah, I just wanted you to come out and share what we were talking about. So thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Have a great day.